So fake disorder cringe is a lovely, that's sarcasm, subreddit that somehow has almost 300,000 members. It's a place in which people are invited to come and cringe at people faking disorders for attention and clout. They talk about a lot of different conditions over there, including autism. They take it upon themselves to call out to police when autism is being faked, but it often devolves into sort of just ridiculing the individual, despite the fact that, ironically, rule number 1 is no bullying. However, alongside the no bullying rule, we also have rule number 10, no white knighting, which prevents users from using the word ableist. Do not post about how ableist the subreddit is. Do not message the moderators about how ableist the subreddit is. Do not start fights in the comments to defend the people who are posted here. So basically no bullying, unless it's ableism, and then by all means continue, because this is exactly what this subreddit is for. It's also against the rules to share your own lived experience of any condition, because apparently that is spreading misinformation about the condition. It would fall under the misinformation rule. This also includes making claims about a disorder based on personal experience or anecdotal evidence. Any controversial claims made with no source will be considered misinformation. So I'm expecting that we won't find any controversial claims made without a source as we explore the subreddit here today. We'll keep an eye out for that. Post 1 is titled "Self-Diagnosed Autistic asks, what flavor of autism did you get?" And it's a TikTok that's been posted here. So I'm always wary when this sort of person who goes sniffing around for fake autism on the internet, I'm always wary when they say that somebody is self-diagnosed, because I'm like, have you seen their medical record? Or are you making an assumption because they don't match the stereotype of autism that you have in your head? And yeah, this video is of somebody who doesn't match the stereotype of autism. So honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if this person has had to self-diagnose, or if they have had to fight really hard to get a diagnosis, probably an expensive diagnosis, later on in life because of the fact that they don't meet the stereotype of autism. So many Black autistic women have slipped through the cracks, and we're just kind of starting to catch up. Let's have a look at the TikTok. What's this person's flavor of autism?
You guys, what flavor of autism do you have? Some people get the science autism, some people get the math autism, some people get the savant autism, some people have things that go. I personally got the kind where I find comfort in wearing cat ears. And also where I don't want to be alive 99% of the time. Also the kind that can only be fixed by abusing a substance. Also where I buy lots of these things. Unfortunately, I was not gifted with the type of autism that makes you smarter. I get the kind of autism that makes me a little bit more stupider.
So obviously my first thought when I see this is it's not supposed to be entirely serious. This can be a bit of an issue sometimes. I see it quite a lot with LGBT creators as well. They'll say something as a joke, usually aimed at members of their own community who are gonna get it and find it, relatable and funny. And then someone on the outside will come in and watch it and go, oh no, she's using the word flavor to describe a serious condition. How dare she? But yes, she's using this language to describe her own condition and to also provide a bit of self-deprecating humor that will probably be very relatable to a lot of autistic people. She's also using it to point out the ways in which she doesn't meet the stereotype of an autistic person. Most people think of Rain Man. She's making the point that not all autistic people are savants, and not all autistic people have these few kind of limited interests. But of course that went right over the heads of most Redditors. So someone said, what flavor of autism do you have? 1, autism stereotype. 2, autism stereotype. 3, autism stereotype. But yeah, that's exactly what she was trying to say. She's acknowledging that those are stereotypes of autism. And okay, here we go. We're doing a great job of not bullying people on this subreddit by commenting on an autistic person's voice. A lot of autistic people have an unusual way with their talking, but I can tell she's putting it on 100%. They've said, I know this is a trait of this condition that this person says they have, but I have chosen to not believe them because of reasons. I'm so sick of this fake claiming. I've seen it happen with a lot of cast members of Love on the Spectrum. People will come on Reddit and say, I don't really think they're autistic. I saw this short where someone was saying they don't think Tanner, who, in some ways does meet the stereotype of autism, so it just shows that nobody is safe. But someone was saying his voice, it seems fake and it seems put on and he doesn't seem really autistic. Yes, autistic people might sound funny to you sometimes, but that's because they're autistic and it's a trait of being autistic. Also, again, this person was joking. I'm mint cream and vanilla. Stop goddamn faking autism, you clown. It's not quirky and fun with only positive behaviors. Shall I remind everyone that negatives exist in autism? Did we watch the same TikTok? Did she not talk about the negatives of being autistic? I guess she was talking about a lived experience, which is absolutely forbidden on this subreddit. Did people miss the parts about poor mental health and substance abuse? Did they sleep through it? What happened? That's what gets me. They're all like, I'm slightly awkward and I really like this one particular anime, so this is my autism. It's never the extreme sensory aversions or non-verbal or never potty training parts. Again, she was literally talking about not wanting to be alive here. So I don't know how miserable you want her to be in order for her to be valid. Why can autistic people not be happy and not have a bit of a laugh sometimes? I don't know. We have to all be crying all the time. And also, is this person trying to say that no autistic people can learn to use the toilet? You might want to provide a source for that ableist piece of information there. Oh wait, I forget, we're not allowed to call anything ableism. I wonder why. Yeah, when I first saw this video, I thought this has to be satire. So I looked at her TikTok and she has even done a video talking about how she self-diagnosed herself. It is such a pet peeve when people say self-diagnosed herself. It already says self-diagnosed. We don't need the extra word. So I just went to look, and even though they hide names on Fake Disorder Cringe, it was very easy for me to find this person's TikTok. She's called B. She's called B. B. I promise I didn't know that. Anyway, she seems lovely. I'll leave a link to her below. But she actually found herself, sadly, on Fake Disorder Cringe, which must have felt awful. She found this post and she read all the comments and she did a response TikTok. So we'll take a look at that in 1 second. But before I get onto that, the reason why I decided to wear the bee earrings today, for this video, I have partnered up with Wild again, and I have something really exciting to share with you, which is bee related. How weird that this is all just slotted together. Okay, so Wild are a vegan, cruelty-free and refillable deodorant brand that I've been using personally for over a year now, and they have just launched during International Bee Month, no less, this reusable deodorant case with, you guessed it, bees. There are bees on it. I don't think I'm alone in having a bit of a thing for bees. It's actually a collaboration with Emma Bridgewater, which is an iconic pottery brand in the UK, and this is their bee motif. It's very cute. Why are bees so cute? I don't know, but they are so cute. As I said, the cases are reusable. They're made from aluminium. You just order these little refills in compostable packaging. It's a great way to reduce single-use plastic in your bathroom. They do shower gels. Oh, this smells so good. I just lifted it up and I was like, They do shower gels, again, in durable aluminium cases that you can refill. I find the shower gels lather beautifully. They're just really satisfying to use. Wild have a really wide range of scents available. This is the current limited edition one that they have. It's honey and cactus flower, but it is vegan. Obviously, it goes really well with the bee case. They do also do unscented deodorant refills if that's what you prefer. Wild will ship worldwide and you can pay in your local currency as well. If you'd like to give it a try and maybe grab the bee case before it's too late, it is limited edition. You can get 20% off if you use the code MEG2024. There'll be a QR code on screen and you can also click the link in the description. If you use the code MEG2024, the discount code will apply to any products on the entire website, but I've been warned that it won't last forever. Let's have a look at Bee's response.
Good morning, everybody. I found myself on Fake Disorder Cringe. Let's fucking talk about it. I'm a lot calmer than I was about 10 minutes ago, so let's do this calmly. First of all, the funniest part about all of this, that I didn't even realize until just now, is that I literally put tone indicators in my video so that nobody would take it the wrong way. The tone indicators, LH/J. Lighthearted / fucking joking!
I didn't see that myself, but I could tell that she was joking, obviously. Oh my gosh. But to be honest, I feel like the kind of people who come on Fake Disorder Cringe would also find tone indicators, tone tags. I feel like they'd also find that cringe, you know? They'd find accommodations that people use to help them with their disability. I feel like they would find that cringe, which is quite telling in itself, really, isn't it?
Because, like, at first I was like, okay, well, maybe, you know, these people are autistic, so maybe they just misunderstood that I was just joking. Maybe they didn't pick up on the tone, because they're autistic. They didn't pick up on the body language of me manically swinging my legs back and forth for dramatic effect. They didn't pick up on that. But there's literally fucking tone indicators. I literally put them there so that people wouldn't misunderstand me. And yet here we are. First of all, I'm not self-diagnosed. This person in this post goes on to say how I talk about on my page about being self-diagnosed.
That's exactly what I said. These people love throwing around you're self-diagnosed when they don't actually have a clue. It actually means I've decided that I am going to peer undiagnose you, which I'm not qualified to do because I think you diagnosed yourself, which I think you're not qualified to do. It's just bizarre.
I want to know what content you were scrolling on. Maybe you had me confused with some other black person. I don't know.
Sadly, I would not be surprised.
But I have not talked about being self-diagnosed on my page in over a year. Want to know why? Because I've been formally diagnosed for the last fucking year. And now apparently my responses to people when they ask me if I'm self-diagnosed have been very disrespectful. It's almost like that's a disrespectful question to ask. Like, I don't know. Just a guess. Look at physically disabled people and ask, are you self-diagnosed? You need that wheelchair. Are you self-diagnosed? Did you decide that you needed to, or did the doctor tell you?
Exactly. When you think about it with a physical condition, it just seems ridiculous. But I do feel like even with depression and other mental health conditions, it would be really weird if someone said, I'm really depressed, or I've really battled with depression my whole life, and someone turned around and went, who diagnosed you with depression? That would be strange, but it's so normalized for autism. I don't know why. Again, I just think most people have this stereotype in their head. Most people feel like an autistic person has to be male, has to be white, has to either be a genius who likes trains, or has to have an intellectual disability and not be able to take care of themselves. And that's it. That's all the spectrum is to a lot of people. Obviously, people do fall into those categories and absolutely do need support as well, but there are other people too on the spectrum. Now, that's not to say that people are great with mental health conditions either, because they're not, and there are a lot of people who are very skeptical about whether, mental health is a thing and all that kind of stuff, particularly with older generations. But I do feel like people are particularly skeptical when it comes to autism.
Responses to people asking me if I'm self-diagnosed are disrespectful. Do you want to know why? Because it's a disrespectful question. People aren't asking me because they're just curious and they want to know my diagnosis status, which you're not owed to know of anybody, but maybe they're just curious. But if you were actually curious, you would use all of your resources. And you're not, which means you're not actually curious. Like, I have not been private about my diagnosis. The only reason I've been a dick to people is because the information is right there, so I know that you're asking me to be an asshole, not because you're curious. I have not talked about being self-diagnosed in the last year. Again, because I've been formally diagnosed for the last year, so why the fuck would I be talking about being self-diagnosed when I paid $800 to not be self-diagnosed? I don't understand. Like, I'm not having a good time because I can make a little fucking joke. I'm not allowed to be autistic because I can make a light of my disability. My disability. Mine. That affects me the way that it affects me. You're not accepting the fact that because I'm black, I might have a different experience than a white autistic person. Yes, I am going to have a different experience. No, I wasn't having meltdowns as a kid because that shit was beat out of me. That was called bratty, spoiled behavior, and it was not allowed.
Exactly, yeah. I made a video last week about autistic meltdowns. I discussed in that video how if you didn't feel entirely comfortable growing up, or maybe if you had a very strict upbringing, your meltdowns may kind of manifest, may present in a different way, because there were consequences if you let that emotion out of your body. So instead, you can kind of internalize and mask those emotions. That doesn't mean they go away and that you were fine, actually. It just means that nobody can see your distress and it can negatively affect your mental health.
So yeah, I learned to fucking hold that shit in. Just because I'm autistic does not mean that my traits have to display a certain way. Any of you little fuckers are here watching my content, I want you to block me right now. I am too fucking hot for you to be sitting here bullying me. Okay?
I'm too hot. Yeah, that is the energy that we all need to embody here. That is it. I mean, I didn't even really need to make this video today. That was a way better response than I could have ever done to that. Anyway, what flavor of autism do you have? Mine is mint choc chip, of course. Maybe I should do that as a poll on my community tab just to annoy these people. What's your flavor? Next post, autism fakers calling everything they like a special interest. In quotation marks. Unfortunately, autism fakers are everywhere now. One thing they seem to latch onto is something called a special interest in quotation marks. Basically, in autism, it's a weird subconscious fascination. I'm not sure I would say it's a subconscious fascination. I feel like it's quite conscious. Do they mean that you feel like a pull that you can't control, like the interests choose you? I mean, that's kind of true. That people with autism get on a limited number of very specific things that interest them. Limited number. I think it differs from person to person. I don't know how many interests I have. I suppose I have like writing, psychology, filmmaking, Taylor Swift's kind of an interest. Like words in general are kind of an interest along with writing, and Taylor Swift kind of falls into the same thing because of lyrics and stuff. So there's like kind of crossover between them. For me, there has kind of been a limited number, I suppose, that have been there throughout my whole life, and it doesn't tend to change too much as I get older, but I can get kind of little like sub-interests within the interest. I think sometimes there is a misconception that autistic people will only have one or like a very, very small number of interests, but a lot of us have a diagnosis of ADHD as well. You can get very like short-term hyperfixations. I just think it differs from person to person. What I think I would measure whether an interest is an autistic special interest or not would be more based on like the intensity that someone feels the pull to be doing that thing and talking about that thing all of the time, just kind of in the moment, more than like, you know, zooming back over your life and like how long have I been interested in this? Have I been interested in it for long enough for it to be valid? And again, I obviously hate this idea that only certain types of things qualify as an autistic special interest. Again, that often is based on stereotypes, and we feel like it has to be a public transport system, whereas actually people can be interested in anything. It's about the intensity of focus. Anyway, it's not as simple as that. These obsessions in quotation marks are in the same diagnosis category as repetitive behavior that also includes organizing objects and what the fakers call stimming. What the fakers call stimming, as if it's just like a TikTok buzzword. No, the word stimming is short for self-stimulatory behavior. You might want to type it in on Google Scholar or just like, you know, general Google. You'll find out that it's not just a TikTok term. Autism fakers will call everything they like a special interest. Well, I mean, if somebody is autistic, there is a good chance they will have a special interest, and people do tend to want to talk about their special interest. They don't realize that many normal people have passions or interests. Your hobby, favorite show, or new fashion style is not a special interest. Getting comfort when stressed by doing the things you like, such as watching TV, is not a special interest. A lot of people need something to distract themselves after a hard day. Not wanting to talk about things that make you bored in life is normal to you. In autism, those interests are different and usually obsessions, not passions. I myself have a lot of deep passions, and I most definitely do not have autism. Sorry if that came off as a rant. They make me very angry because autism ruins people's lives. Okay, so they gave TV as an example of something that wasn't a special interest, but then actually somebody here in the comments found a study of 2,000 autistic children, and the study found that television was one of the most common interests that came up. I made a video about special interests, and I looked at a study as well, and technology came up as the most common autistic special interest. If someone comes online to speak about their special interest in a television program, that does not mean that they're saying that anybody who watches TV is autistic. I feel like a lot of people who do this sort of fake claiming thing tend to take things to an extreme in that way. Like someone will say, oh, I'm autistic and I do this, and they'll be like, everybody does that. That doesn't make you autistic. And it's like, they didn't say that. They were talking about that they're an autistic person and that's how they experience that one thing. And why do we say a particular fashion style can't become an autistic special interest? Are we being a bit sexist there? Yes, non-autistic people can have hobbies. I discussed this in my 9 signs that you might not be autistic video, but the difference is that intensity, is that tendency towards potentially becoming obsessed with something. An autistic person who has a special interest in a particular TV show or movie might watch that film every single day. They might watch the same part of the film again and again. They might own all of the Bluey merch available in the whole world. They might write out facts about the characters from the TV show. They might start to write fan fiction about that TV show. It might be all they want to talk about to their friends. It might be all they think about. Everything in their life might come back to that one thing. They might forget to eat and go to the toilet while they're learning more about this particular TV show or fashion style. That is kind of what makes it an autistic special interest. It's interesting that they bring up TV as something that can't be a special interest, because I've seen so many little documentaries about high support needs autistic people where they watch the same TV show or film or section from a film again and again because it provides them comfort. That repetition, that reliability can be really soothing for autistic people all over the spectrum. Also, this idea that autism always has to be ruining everybody's lives, that we can never have joy. Yes, autistic people's special interests can become obsessive. It can become unhealthy. You can end up not spending a lot of time with other people. You can end up becoming quite isolated. You can forget to take downtime, forget to look after yourself. Absolutely, that's all true. But the reason a lot of people do that is because their autistic special interests bring them so much joy. They struggle to pull themselves away. Does an interest need to ruin your life in order for it to be an autistic special interest? I didn't know that. Someone commented and said, "This one irritates me as well, especially when I see those little category boards that list their supposed special interests. Things like video games, psychology, video games, again, movies, TV shows." I would love to hear some examples of what these people think autistic interests should be in order for them to be valid. Psychology is a big one of my interests personally. I mean, why did they think this channel exists if psychology isn't allowed to be an autistic special interest? And also, does it not make sense that people who maybe struggle with the social aspects of life might become kind of intrigued to learn more about that, and it might actually be in our best interests to kind of adopt an interest in other humans? So the next one is a TikTok again. The post is titled "Taking BuzzFeed Quiz Equals Autism."
Ha ha ha. What a funny TikTok. I relate. I must be autistic. Okay, so here I have all of my test scores to every online autism assessment that exists. Here I have a list of every time I have exhibited an autistic trait in the past 21 years. And over here I have a list of the comorbidities I have and all of the disorders it could be, but why I've ruled them out. That's not enough.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder what the person who said you can't have a special interest in psychology thinks this is. Of course you can. You can obsess over anything, and many autistic people do obsess over autism when they find out that they could be autistic. We go down a research rabbit hole really hard. It becomes really intense. It's all we can think about. We try and learn absolutely everything that we can. And this can involve taking online psychometric tests. These tests are validated by research, and some of them are used within the actual diagnostic process. If you were to go to your GP and say that you thought you might be autistic, the first thing they would do is take you through 10 questions, the AQ10, and they'll use your answers to these 10 questions, some of which kind of seem a little bit random, and I have my own problems with the AQ10, but they'll use your answers to these questions, these 10 questions, to determine whether or not they're going to refer you for an autism assessment. Do we think that's a BuzzFeed test as well? Someone commented, "I remember taking these quizzes and I was convinced I was a sociopath for like 2 days." So I mean, I think there absolutely are nonsense tests out there. I'm sure there are kind of BuzzFeed style quizzes about autism. Just avoid those ones. Embrace Autism is a really great website to go to for more kind of reputable tests. Why are they trying so hard and using all their time just to prove that they have a mental disorder? So autism is a neurodevelopmental disorder. A lot of us prefer neurodevelopmental condition. I mean, they're probably trying so hard because they are autistic. They've become a bit obsessed with the research. I mean, when you've spent your whole life feeling different, noticing that you are different, and you have these weird things that you do that other people don't seem to do. Like, I've flapped my hands at objects my whole life, and I always thought I was the only person in the world to do it. I didn't really understand it. I felt like I had to hide it from people and could only do it in private. When something comes along that might explain that and also explain everything else about you that seems weird, and why you've always struggled with your mental health, and why you've struggled to kind of slot into life and work a normal job, and everything seems so much easier for other people, of course that's gonna be pretty damn intriguing. I don't think if you're not autistic, you maybe just can't understand that, and maybe you just have to accept, I don't understand that life experience because I'm not autistic. I don't understand the feeling of something coming out of nowhere and explaining everything to you. It's crazy. It's like having a bomb dropped on your life. It's not an entirely pleasant process. It's pretty unpleasant. You've got to dismantle every idea you had about your identity, and it can make a lot of memories feel super painful because you're like, oh my gosh, if I had just known, I would have saved myself so much pain, and it's too late now. And the more you research autism, the more you realize how under-recognized it is in women, in girls, for people of color, for people who come from lower income backgrounds as well. Particularly if you do want to go and pursue a medical diagnosis, it can feel necessary to do that much work and to prepare, a load of information for the diagnostician so that you kind of are accurately diagnosed, so that you don't find yourself slipping through the cracks again, as you have done your entire life. You'll be asked a lot of questions about your childhood. If you go for an autism diagnosis later in life, you kind of want to make sure you have that information on hand. It's just a smart thing to do. An autism diagnosis is not a brain scan. People can't see inside your head. So how you express yourself within that appointment, how you express the reasons why you think you might be autistic, is very, very important. They could well use that time being productive or talk with an actual therapist, but no, they'd rather do these cringe stuff. As I say, most people do this before they see a therapist in like preparation. And you may very well want to see a professional, but you might be on a ridiculous wait list or you might not be able to afford it. Honestly, it's just sad that they think being a bit slower in development from the majority makes them cool or makes them stand out, which to me seems like ways for them to want the constant approval and validation and sympathy that they never got from their parents. Wow, we have some groundbreaking psychological theory going on in the fake disorder cringe subreddit. I mean, slower in development, tell me you don't understand anything about autism without telling me you don't understand anything about autism. Like, that's not what autism means, that's not what autism is. Some autistic people can actually pick up skills super quickly. It just differs from autistic person to autistic person. We can have these quite extreme strengths and weaknesses. So next we have a post titled, "Please stop glamorizing autism." So it seems like someone's posted a bunch of screenshots of the same person. When you thought you were regular manic pixie dream girl quirky, but turns out you're actually clinically quirky. Looking for the resources I'm stealing from other autistics by self-diagnosing. When autism makes your life 100 times harder, but at least it makes you statistically look younger. I'm not sure about that one. I don't know. A lot of autistic people do have things like EDS. They have hypermobility. I think that can be linked to looking younger for your age. Also, sometimes the way we dress and things like that too. The bee earrings might not be the most sophisticated thing, but that's fine, that's fine. Wanting to come out as autistic, but not wanting the people who bullied you in high school to suddenly send apologies because they should have been kind regardless of disability. And then the last one says, "I'm low support needs because I can't afford support." So the comments say, low support needs have nothing to do with payment or money. And then someone also said, no, your low support needs because you can live independently and do things like feed yourself without help. If you were actually high support needs and not getting the support, you'd literally be dead. I do kind of understand what these commenters are trying to say. Yes, some autistic people have a lot of support needs, and those autistic people are probably more likely to be identified and to be identified earlier in life. However, what the person in this post was trying to say, I assume, is that low support needs doesn't mean no support needs. Sometimes when you get diagnosed later in life, people kind of have the response of like, well, what's the point? You know, you've already got married, you've already lived up until now with no supports, you've survived. And Abby's mom also said in a TikTok recently, which I responded to, that you're not truly autistic if you haven't had occupational therapy, if you haven't had speech therapy, if you haven't been through music therapy as her daughter Abby has. But those therapies are obviously a privilege that not everybody will have the money to access, even if they would have positively benefited their lives and their outcomes. If you don't have the money, you don't have the money. You're just gonna have to do your best without. And that's the thing, just because you survived without support doesn't mean it was the best thing for you. When I watched that video of Abby's mom, I looked into occupational therapy and I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, that would have made a huge difference to me. I dropped out of school when I was 17. I left college. I was probably, you know, in most of my classes, one of, if not the most high achieving person academically, and it became overwhelming. It became too much for me. I had to stop. Had I been diagnosed, had I been given support, would I have been able to continue? Would I be living a very different life now? Who knows? I'll never know that. It took me another 7 years from that point of dropping out to even start considering that I might possibly be autistic and then go on to get my diagnosis. I'd been in front of medical professionals several times trying to express the difficulties that I had, sometimes at a crisis point, and no one ever thought to consider that I might be autistic. Basically, again and again, I was told that I was kind of too clever or did too well academically, at least, for there to be anything wrong with me, basically. And I was fine, actually. And then throughout this comment section, we have a lot of comments about this person's physical appearance, which is a frequent occurrence on this subreddit, sadly. And I mean, if you noticed, basically all of the people posted on this subreddit today were women. Again, is this just sexism? I don't know. Her face looks like it's running away from itself. Is it just me, or does it look like her face is melting in the fourth pic? Why her head like that? Absolutely no hate to this person, red flag, but they don't look youthful compared to others their age. Why is this okay, and what does it have to do with calling out people for faking disorders? Why does their physical appearance need to come into it? It's just bullying. It's just against your bloody rules. And just, you know, as an aside, this person looks beautiful, so I don't know what the hell they're talking about. I don't want to sound like a mom, but I suppose I am a mom now, and yeah, maybe these people are just jealous. They're just jealous, okay? There's another thread that I saw as well. The original post isn't there anymore, but it's just people absolutely ripping into someone's physical appearance, particularly their hairstyle, tearing it apart. What does that have to do with faking disorders? What does somebody's hairstyle have to do with faking disorders? And you know that autistic people don't follow social norms. Or if you knew anything about autism, you would know that autistic people don't always follow social norms and therefore may decide to dress a bit differently. You're literally bullying people for being autistic. So if you missed my recent video about whether it's socially appropriate to go around diagnosing celebrities such as Jojo Siwa as autistic, you might enjoy that discussion. I'll leave it linked down below. I also have responded to the fake disorder cringe subreddit before, so I'll also leave that link down below. Maybe I'll link down below my memes playlist as well, just in case you want something a little bit more positive, some memes from actually autistic people so we can all laugh together instead of being mad. If you would like to see more videos from me, then feel free to support me on Patreon so I can keep these coming. The lowest tier is $4 per month, and on that tier you can join the Discord server where you can chat to other autistic people. No one's going to invalidate you, no matter what your diagnosis status is. Even if you're just exploring the idea that you could be autistic, you're absolutely welcome there. It's against the rules to invalidate anybody's diagnosis. And also, even if you join the lowest tier at $4, you do get access to loads of exclusive videos. There's heaps on there. My latest one is an hour or over an hour of me reviewing Orion Kelly's book, Autism Feels. It was quite a cozy one. It was a windy day and I sat and I read and I spoke about my thoughts and what bits I found relatable and things like that. I really enjoyed it. I'm going to be doing some more of the kind of book review styled videos over there as well, so you might enjoy that. There's hours and hours of stuff to keep yourself entertained if you've already gone through everything on this channel. And on the higher tiers, there's a podcast and there's also outtakes. There's a lot of stuff on there to be listening to. And again, if you want to match me, if you want to get the Wild Bee Case limited edition, I'm not sure how long it's going to be around for, then use the QR code on screen, click the link in the description, use the code MEG2024 and get 20% off. And yeah, we can twin. We can twin. I love this blue color on the inside. It's really pretty, isn't it? Anyway, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in my next video very soon. Bye.